Good evening. It's Thursday, the 4th of September, and here's what's making news around the world on World News Tonight. Aviation alert. Cockpit audio reveals pilot's tense moment spotting Chinese live-fire drills, raising concerns over military escalation. Diplomatic update. Russian President Putin signals willingness to meet Zelensky in Moscow amid ongoing conflict. Heroic rescue. Pennsylvania father leaps into action to save child wandering onto Hershey Park monorail.
From Colombo, this is World News Tonight with Prithika Sivakumar.
Good evening once again. New cockpit audio has emerged, capturing the moment a pilot discovered China was conducting live-fire naval drills in the Tasman Sea earlier this year. The unannounced exercises prompted the rerouting of 49 flights and raised concerns over communication protocols between military forces and civilian aviation authorities.
It's February, and for the first time we put you in the cockpit as the pilot of a Virgin flight discovers Chinese warships are about to conduct a live firing exercise below him in the Tasman Sea.
Rossi 161, we've just had a warning from a Chinese naval task force that they're doing a live firing exercise. Is anyone aware of that?
Air traffic control was in the dark.
So they advise a level that they'll be firing to?
Negative, just within a 10 mile radius of that position. That was it.
The audio was released after a Freedom of Information request. The Virgin plane was fortunately outside the firing zone.
If we go missing, we'll know what happened, eh?
Good luck.
Yeah.
Thanks to the Virgin pilot, traffic control is now fully aware.
Set a hazard alert. A Chinese warship located approximately 300 nautical miles southeast of Sydney, position 3700 south, 15702 east, has commenced live firing within a 10 nautical mile radius of that position.
The controller warns an Emirates plane to divert course.
You will essentially fly right over the top of that position.
A Qantas plane then joins the conversation.
Senator Qantas 161, do they advise any altitudes or otherwise that they're firing to?
Traffic control doesn't know, but the Emirates plane relays the answer to the Qantas flight.
They are firing up to 15 kilometres in altitude within 10 miles of that reported position.
15 kilometres is 49,000 feet. With passenger jets flying around 35,000 feet, the pilots had reason to be concerned.
Chinese President Xi Jinping and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un are set to engage in significant talks in Beijing, focusing on enhancing bilateral relations and addressing mutual concerns. The announcement follows a grand military parade attended by both leaders, underscoring the strengthening of ties between the two nations.
The forthcoming discussions between Xi and Kim aim to deepen strategic communication and enhance cooperation between China and North Korea. China's foreign ministry emphasized the importance of these talks in advancing the respective socialist causes and reinforcing the traditional, friendly, cooperative relations between the two countries. The military parade in Beijing, marking the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II, served as a platform for showcasing China's military strength. Kim Jong-un's attendance, alongside Russian President Vladimir Putin, highlighted the growing trilateral ties among China, North Korea, and Russia. The upcoming talks are expected to have significant implications for regional security and diplomacy. Analysts anticipate discussions on military cooperation, economic partnerships, and shared governance experiences, which could influence the geopolitical landscape in East Asia and beyond.
Australia has passed a controversial law facilitating the expedited deportation of non-citizens to third countries, bypassing procedural fairness and limiting court appeals. This move coincides with the recent agreement to pay Nauru $2.5 billion Australian dollars over 3 decades to host deported individuals, raising concerns among human rights groups.
The newly enacted law enables Australian authorities to deport non-citizens to third countries more swiftly, removing procedural fairness and restricting court appeals. This legislation is designed to streamline the deportation process but has faced criticism for potentially undermining legal protections for individuals facing deportation. In conjunction with the legislative changes, Australia has agreed to pay Nauru $2.5 billion Australian dollars over 30 years to host deported individuals, particularly those denied refugee visas due to criminal convictions. This arrangement has raised concerns about the adequacy of resources and support for resettled individuals on the island. Human rights organizations have expressed alarm over the new law and the Nauru resettlement plan, likening them to previous controversial immigration policies. Critics argue that the measures may violate international human rights standards and place vulnerable individuals at risk by sending them to locations with limited resources and support systems.
Severe flooding in Pakistan's Punjab province has led to the evacuation of nearly 300,000 people in the past 48 hours, bringing the total displaced to 1.3 million since last month. The crisis, exacerbated by India's release of dam water and heavy monsoon rains, has submerged villages and overwhelmed relief efforts.
The recent evacuations in Punjab are part of a broader crisis that has displaced over 1.3 million individuals since August. The floods, caused by torrential monsoon rains and the release of excess water from Indian dams, have inundated more than 1,400 villages, particularly affecting the agricultural heartland of Kasur, Bahawalpur and Narawal districts. The Chenab River's near branch prompted authorities to preemptively destroy parts of riverbanks to divert water and prevent catastrophe. Pakistan has criticized India's suspension of the Indus Waters Treaty, which halted the exchange of river data, exasperating the flood situation. Pakistan's planning minister Ahsan Iqbal noted that better information could have helped manage the crisis more effectively. India acknowledged broken gates at the Madhapura barrage, but stated that flow is being controlled upstream at the Ranjit Sagar Dam. Over 3.3 million people across 33,000 villages in Punjab have been affected. Rescue operations involve thousands of personnel using boats and drones to locate stranded individuals. However, survivors report inadequate facilities in relief camps, including lack of clean drinking water, proper sanitation, and timely food delivery. The harsh weather conditions with temperatures exceeding 90 degrees Fahrenheit further strain the relief efforts.
Let's go in for a short commercial break. More world news coming right after this. Welcome back. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has called for intensified international pressure on Moscow following recent Russian airstrikes that targeted Ukraine's energy infrastructure, resulting in at least 9 fatalities in Kostiantynivka. He emphasized the strategic necessity of bolstering Ukraine's air defense capabilities to safeguard civilian lives and critical infrastructure.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Wednesday called for more pressure on Moscow during a trip to Denmark. Beginning a visit to European allies, he hopes will unveil plans for security guarantees for Kyiv.
Russia keeps hitting our energy sector, hitting every day, and we need enough capabilities to protect ourselves. Putin hopes winter will kill our people where his troops cannot reach, and we cannot let them happen. Air defense is absolutely strategic.
Zelensky's comments come after Russia launched a sweeping overnight attack on Ukraine that injured at least 4 railway workers and damaged critical infrastructure. While in the eastern town of Kostiantynivka, at least 9 people were killed, according to regional officials.
Russia rejects any attempt to end the war and wants to keep fighting.
During a press conference in China, Russian President Vladimir Putin said there was a chance to end the war, quote, if common sense prevails, but added, quote, if not, then we will have to resolve all the tasks before us by force of arms. Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump said on Wednesday that he has no further message for Putin and awaits a decision from the Russian leader.
He knows where I stand, and he'll make a decision one way or the other. Whatever his decision is, we'll either be happy about it or unhappy. And if we're unhappy about it, you'll see things happen.
Putin said he has never ruled out the possibility of meeting Zelensky, but that any such meeting should be held in Moscow, a proposal swiftly dismissed by Ukraine's foreign minister as unacceptable.
Russian President Vladimir Putin has expressed willingness to meet Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in Moscow, contingent upon well-prepared discussions yielding tangible outcomes. While U.S. President Donald Trump supports this dialogue, Ukraine deems Moscow an unacceptable venue. Simultaneously, Russia's airstrikes on Ukraine persist, intensifying regional tensions.
Russian President Vladimir Putin said on Wednesday that he was ready to hold talks with Volodymyr Zelensky if the Ukrainian president came to Moscow. This was revealed during a press conference for Russian media as he wrapped up his trip to China.
By the way, U.S. President Donald Trump asked me to hold such a meeting. I said this is possible. At the end of the day, if Zelensky is ready, let him come to Moscow, and such a meeting will take place.
But he also added that it remained to be seen whether such a meeting with the Ukrainian president was worthwhile, calling it a road to nowhere. Saying that he has never refused such a meeting, Putin reiterated that it would have to be well prepared in advance and that it would have to lead to tangible results. Zelensky has been pressing to meet Putin to discuss the terms of a possible deal to end their war, while U.S. President Donald Trump has been trying to broker a peace settlement, calling for the two leaders to meet. However, as Putin attended China's Victory Day parade in Beijing, Russia continued with overnight airstrikes across Ukraine, launching over 500 drones and 24 missiles. Beginning a visit to European allies, President Zelensky called for more pressure on Moscow, calling the latest attacks clearly demonstrative Russian strikes, claiming that the aggression is continuing due to the lack of sufficient pressure. Meanwhile, President Trump is expected to speak on the phone with President Zelensky on Thursday. This comes after his recent Alaska summit with President Putin on August 15th, which failed to achieve a breakthrough. Trump said that he had, quote, no message to President Putin. French President Emmanuel Macron is expected to host a mostly virtual meeting of some 30 countries to discuss security guarantees for Ukraine. They are also expected to denounce Moscow's unwillingness to engage in negotiations.
The European Commission has presented the EU-Mercosur trade agreement for approval, aiming to eliminate tariffs on most goods between the EU and South America's Mercosur bloc. Facing opposition from France over agricultural concerns, the Commission proposes potential limits on farm product imports to address these issues.
The European Commission presented the EU's trade accord with South America's Mercosur bloc for approval. In a key development, it also appeared to soften opposition from the deal's main critic, France, with promises of possible limits on farm product imports. The EU and the bloc of Argentina, Brazil, Paraguay and Uruguay reached agreement last December. It was to create the EU's largest ever trade accord, some 25 years after negotiations were launched. Maros Sefcovic is European Commissioner for Trade.
We are creating the world's largest free trade area, linking over 700 million consumers across 2 continents. It offers first-mover advantages to EU companies in the region, still largely protected by high tariffs.
The agreement now needs consent in the EU. It requires a vote in the European Parliament and a qualified majority among EU governments, meaning 15 of 27 members. The Commission and countries like Germany and Spain support the deal. They argue it's a way to offset the loss of trade due to tariffs imposed by US President Donald Trump. They also believe it can lower reliance on China, particularly for critical minerals. European farmers, though, have repeatedly protested over the deal. They argue it would lead to cheap imports of South American commodities, notably beef, that don't meet the EU's green and food safety standards, though the Commission has denied this is the case. France has been difficult to win round as the EU's largest beef producer and previously called the deal unacceptable. Poland is another farming giant opposed to the deal, but the country's Prime Minister Donald Tusk said they no longer had other partners to block it.
There's no one outside Poland who would want to block Mercosur at this point. We can't vote it down. Poland will oppose Mercosur because we want to truly ensure, or at least show and demonstrate, that we won't give up when it comes to the interests of Polish agricultural producers. But there are no partners to block it at the moment.
The Commission has tried to soothe concerns. It's proposed a mechanism that would allow preferential Mercosur access for some farm products like beef to be suspended. It further said it would closely monitor imports and also planned the $7.38 billion crisis fund for EU farmers. French Trade Minister Laurent Saint-Martin said on X the safeguard clause was a step in the right direction.
At least 15 people were killed and 18 injured when Lisbon's historic Gloria funicular derailed yesterday. The iconic yellow and white streetcar, a popular tourist attraction since 1885, crashed into a building on a steep hillside. Portugal has declared a national day of mourning as investigations continue.
At least 15 people are dead, 18 more injured after an iconic cable streetcar derailed in Portugal. This was the scene just moments after the disaster in the capital Lisbon, at the height of the evening rush. This video posted on social media. Bystanders combing through the mangled wreckage, searching for survivors. The yellow and white Gloria funicular, one of Lisbon's landmarks, seen on its side, appearing to have slammed into a building on a steep hill. First responders tending to victims at the scene, debris littering the ground. Tonight, no word on how many foreigners were on board. Authorities confirming a child is among the injured, calling it the worst accident in the city's recent history.
Time for a short break now. We'll be right back with more world news. Welcome back. A Pennsylvania father is being hailed as a hero after rescuing a young boy who wandered onto an elevated monorail track at Hershey Park. John Sampson, a father of 3, acted on instinct, climbing a concession stand roof to reach the child who was unharmed.
After 20 terrifying minutes of parents separated from their child, this young boy popped up on the Hershey Park monorail Saturday, 20 feet above the ground. Stop! As crowds screamed and the child covered his ears, John Sampson knew what to do.
So you see a child in danger, instantly, how can I help?
The father leapt onto the monorail from a nearby ice cream stand.
I climbed up on that, balanced on that, climbed up on the roof from there, and then it was a straight shot from there.
According to Hershey Park, while our team was actively searching, the child entered a secured area for the monorail, which was not in operation, safeguarded by a chained closure and barricaded turnstile. Amidst the crowd's cries, Sampson concentrating on the task at hand.
I was able to grab him and hug him, and then I heard all the cheers after that, gripping me, so happy to be in somebody's arms.
Not in the arms of a stranger, but for a relieved family, in the arms of a Hershey hero dad.
Christine Marino, whose father Kenneth, a firefighter, died in the 9/11 attacks, experienced an emotional tribute on her wedding day. Firefighters from her father's FDNY unit escorted her to the ceremony and stood in his place, symbolizing his presence as she married singer Noah Snacky.
It was the powerful moment right before the wedding, now touching hearts across this country. Kristen Marino and her father Kenneth, a New York City firefighter with Hell's Kitchen Rescue Company 1 for more than a decade. She lost her father on 9/11. She was just 3 years old. He was last seen near the 70th floor of the North Tower. More than 2 decades later, Kristen choosing to get married right here in New York City to be closer to her dad. And when it was time for the ceremony to start, waiting for her outside her hotel, Hell's Kitchen Rescue Company 1, showing up for the daughter of their fallen brother. Engines ready to escort the bride to her wedding. Kristen emotional, writing it felt like a symbol of her dad, walking her down the aisle. Her mother Katrina and brother Tyler were right there too, wiping away tears. And right here tonight,
Hi David.
Kristen and her husband Noah sending us a message tonight from their honeymoon about the moment they tell us they keep revisiting.
Right when I saw them and they were all just looking up at me smiling, I just lost it completely, and I can just see my dad there standing as well. Like, I know he was represented through them, and it was such an honor to be able to shake their hand. They just showed up for me, but most importantly, they showed up for my dad.
Tonight, they are grateful for those firefighters, grateful they brought her father to the wedding.
I'm just so blown away by all the love and support that everyone has shared, and just to see people still coming and supporting us and the families of 9/11 means the world to us.
And with that, we come to the end of today's edition of World News Tonight. With the hopes of seeing you again, I'm Prithika Sivakumar, and we'll leave you tonight with the visuals of a local victory at Buenos Aires Tango capital. Also, don't forget to send us your feedback through email at feedback.ad24english@derana.lk or via WhatsApp at 076-805-7933. Anuradha Vikramasinghe will be joining you next with the nightly business report. Thank you for watching. Have a great night.